Welcome back to Say Nothing, the podcast bringing you an exclusive serialization of this gripping audiobook. Whether you're tuning in for the first time or following along chapter by chapter, settle in, get comfortable, and enjoy the ride. If you can't wait for the next episode, or you'd like to experience Say Nothing in full, you can purchase the complete book right now. Just follow the link in the description. Chapter 6. He wanted to dial again, but knew it was pointless. 3 times in the same hour screamed desperation, and flooding her with calls could sabotage any attempt at reconciliation. Placing the receiver down, Jack told himself that if it really came to it, a journey across the channel was always an option. Growing old with a debilitating disease he could deal with, growing old without making amends with his daughter was altogether different. Is it ever too late to change? He'd asked himself time and again since embracing sobriety. Though his diagnosis had clearly acted as a catalyst to reconcile with Sarah, his outlook on life had been evolving since the day Judy died. She had been the love of his life, and he had failed to protect her. If he was being punished for his selfishness, he had no means to argue. Now, with ample time to reflect, he longed for the opportunity to simply feel the warmth of her hand in his. Many stories of romance are told with descriptions of simple beauty and a sense of inevitability. The story of Jack's first meeting with his future wife lacked any such charm, but he would never have changed a thing. The day they met had been born from conflict. Just the day earlier, Judy had split from her partner of 4 years, Charlie Stahl. The breakup had come out of the blue for Judy, and she had spent the 24 hours since trying to operate while stuck in a hazy listlessness. Had it not been for work, she would have been curled in a ball on her bed, sobbing for her lost love. Instead, she found herself on the ward, forlorn and lost. Life in a hospital never takes a break, but Judy seemed trapped in a moment of isolation. There was nothing happening around her and nothing to provide distraction. Alone with her thoughts, her eyes began to well up in memory of the years she'd spent with Charlie. He had been the one she expected to marry and spend her life with. How things had come to an end so abruptly she did not know. But it was over. And here she was. The very last thing she expected was, moments later, to meet her future husband. Crashing through the doors to the emergency room, the bloodied face of the patient would be the least of her worries. Hands cuffed behind his back, it was the 2 uniformed police officers in tow that captured her interest. It was only just a little after 11 in the evening, and as the 3 men piled into the hospital, the commotion engulfed her, and it was only the gentle hand of one of the officers that protected her from the violent flailing. As the wounded patient was roughly seated, it was the same officer, Jack Williams, that approached Judy. Unlike Hollywood romances that come accompanied by lilting music, tunnel vision, and an aura of destiny, the meeting of Jack and Judy was the simple intervention of fate on an evening both would otherwise have hoped to forget. "We need to get someone to look at our friend here," said Jack, motioning to the cuffed man. "Is there any chance we could get him cleaned up sooner rather than later?" It was his voice that struck a chord with Judy. Love at first sight is often noted, but this was altogether different. His mannerisms and authority were surprising in one so young, while the gentle, caring nature hinted at something more to this uniformed youngster. In her time at the hospital, she had seen many officers come and go, and a despairing number of them shared an intensity and penchant for aggressiveness that made her question their motives for entering the force. Bypassing his question immediately, she simply asked with a hint of nervousness, "You're new, aren't you?" She surprised even herself by asking whether her fragile state of mind made her susceptible to the kindness of the man before her, or whether it really was an instant connection. She would never be sure. Sorry, of course. Let's get him to one of these beds over here. Yes, thank you so much. And yes, it's my first week. Jack smiled at her. He too suddenly became aware of how unusual it was to meet someone with a similar level of politeness and decorum. I'm Jack, Officer Williams? Jack. He removed his glove and went to shake her hand. His sudden awkwardness made him more endearing. As they made their way to one of the emergency room beds, Judy felt a nervousness run down her spine. Well, it's nice to meet you, Officer Williams. Judy Carter. If you just sit him down over here, I'll get someone to come take a look at him. Are you hurt yourself? Me? No, I'm fine. We're both fine. Just need to give him a check to make sure he's okay. There was a bit of trouble just down the road. Thought I'd give him a chance to tidy himself up before taking him to the station. Only fair. He noticed her smile as he ended his sentence. Okay, well, it shouldn't take too long. If you wanted to wait here while he gets cleaned up, you can. Will it take both of you? He looked at his partner, who was trying his hardest to stifle his laughter at the two of them conversing awkwardly. No, probably not. I'll wait out here. If that's okay, Of course. It was awkward and it was clumsy, but that first meeting led to another. Things steadily became more relaxed between the two, and eventually the nervousness between the couple dissipated. Judy often found herself longing for that initial period to return, when the nervous tingling that swept across her body was countered by the sense of excitement in discovering the nuances of somebody new. There had been times when people told her that she had rushed into a relationship too soon after the split from Charlie, that things would never work and that she or Jack would end up hurt. But deep inside, she knew that she and Jack connected perfectly. He was, unlike so many people, an honorable and just man, and the security she felt when the two were together led her to believe that the future would be all she could hope for. Although the later years would see them drift apart, there had never been a compromise in loyalty, and were it not for the accident, Judy had made arrangements to live the life she deserved once Jack was free from his career. It would be all she hoped for, and everything she deserved. The accident took away any chance for Judy to live the life she deserved. In the years since, Jack found himself tortured by the thoughts that she died having experienced a life half-lived. Those first couple of years had been idyllic, with Jack emerging from his shell of discomfort around others and growing in confidence to the point his career advancement began to accelerate, and the person that had so spurred him on began to be kept at arm's length. Even Sarah's birth was a solitary experience for her, with Jack stationed in Northern Ireland for weeks at a time. They'd argued, albeit infrequently, and she told him of the cold and lonely feelings she experienced trapped in the house alone with the baby. Jack couldn't understand what she had meant until now, every turn he made revealing the emptiness of his surroundings. He missed Judy with all his being. The pain caused by her absence was debilitating. For just a moment, Jack's stoicism slipped, and a glazed look covered his eyes. The shock triggered by the ringing phone caused him to recoil in his chair, where again he had fallen asleep. But it was the tingling sensation that shot down his legs that hit him hardest. It was almost indescribable. A combination of freezing cold and searing heat that caused his body to judder uncontrollably. Was it going to be the call he hoped for? Had Sarah seen his missed calls and decided she would return the attempt at contact? The anxiety prompted a moment's hesitation. If it was Sarah, what was he going to say? His mind had gone blank with confusion, as though a darkness had descended and blinded him from all he could see. In this moment, the aching of his limbs was overcome by the adrenaline running through him. In a burst of energy, he grabbed the receiver. "Hello? Jack?" The voice was unmistakable. "Jack, it's Sarah. You've been calling?" He was overcome with a mixture of elation and trepidation. This had been the first contact between the two in years, and though her tone was cold and guarded, the fact she had taken this step brought a wave of optimism. Yes, yes, I have. I've been. His voice was stuttering. "I wanted to just speak to you, that's all. I just wanted to talk." At the end of the line, nearly 300 miles away, Sarah was in an emotional turmoil of her own. There was support in the form of Eloise, who sat in the kitchen sipping a cup of coffee as she watched her friend on the phone. She had been the one to convince her to make the call. Sarah had, until that time, been in a state of confusion about her estranged father. Perhaps it was impending parenthood that made her decide to act, or maybe it was the longing to hear a familiar voice from home. Whatever it was, Sarah had needed surprisingly little encouragement to change her mind. As Eloise looked on, feeling like a witness to something private that should never been seen, Sarah struggled to find any direction for the conversation. "Well, I'm calling now. Are you?" She hesitated, contemplated changing tone and direction before continuing. "Are you okay? Is everything all right?" "Fine. Everything is fine." A lie. The first time they'd talked in years, and it took seconds for him to lie. "How about you? You've been on my mind for a while now. I just didn't know how to make this." Sarah balked and rolled her eyes when she heard how she'd been in his thoughts. "It's okay." "It's not okay. Look, Sarah, I'm." Again, he struggled to form any words, let alone a coherent sentence. There was so much to say, but he lacked the capacity. The discomfort of both parties was clear to Eloise, even when privy to just one side of the conversation. Again he paused and let out a hefty sigh. "I just want to tell you I'm sorry." A tear formed in the corner of Sarah's eye. "I need to tell you that I'm sorry. For everything and for nothing. I don't expect forgiveness, and I don't have any way to justify anything, but I just need you to know that." The tear escaped from the corner of her eye and began to stream down her blushed cheek, interrupted on its path as she wiped it away. These were words she's been waiting to hear for some time, and now that they were being delivered, there was a sense of relief within her, a release of emotion that had been buried deep inside for so long. She took after her mother in that she always wanted to forgive and move on. Yet there was the stubborn streak that came from Jack and had caused this bitter grudge to be dragged out over the years. Now here she was, sitting between the two and presented with a conundrum. Sarah had always longed her father to be there, yet she still had a lot to get off her chest. Her emotions were all over the place, and she couldn't decide what to do. The man on the end of the line was little more than a stranger. Looking across the room at Eloise, she saw her oldest friend offer a glimmer of a smile and a gentle nod of the head. There would be time for her to speak her mind later. Today was about initiating change. "It's okay. I appreciate it. And I understand that it wasn't always easy." With that, his anxiety passed and was replaced by a liberating sense of relief. It was a far from perfect situation, but there was at least a semblance of hope where before there had been none. For the first time in his life, he had a desire to just talk and listen for an indeterminate length of time. The voice of his daughter was something he had failed to treasure when he previously had chance. The fact that he couldn't even recall the sound of her laugh was something that caused a pain and heartache like he never knew. Even the shooting pains brought on by his condition failed to rock him as much as this fact. With the realization that he had achieved the goal of re-establishing contact with Sarah, he set himself the new ambition of seeing and hearing that laugh he so longed to witness. The conversation continued in a ponderous and slow manner, but still he felt compelled to try his luck. You know, I'm now retired, completely free from anything, he began. If you ever wanted to maybe catch up in person, I could, come by sometime, or perhaps meet up somewhere. Sarah was hesitant at replying either negatively or in the affirmative. She wanted to play for time, especially with the birth edging ever closer. She also knew that she could probably do with the support. We could, I'm not really, I think maybe it would be best to. It's okay, Jack interjected. I just thought maybe we. No, it's fine. I've got a lot on at the moment. She glanced across at Eloise, who was doing her best to pretend to not be paying attention, all the while absorbing every last detail. Sarah gambled. I'm pregnant. 8 months pregnant. Oh, my. Oh, wow. Really? That's fantastic, replied Jack, the elation in his voice as incredible as the sense of excitement that stunned him. The news was a shock, but one he could never have imagined would delight him so much. I'm in shock. Incredible. I'm so proud. Silence. Well, I'll leave it with you then. I'll be here if and when you need anything. I'm trying, okay? I want to try. The euphoria at learning of Sarah's pregnancy was suddenly replaced by an overwhelming sadness. Sarah was overcome with emotion and could barely continue to talk, so made haste to get off the line. Okay, she uttered, fighting back the tears. I've got to go, but we'll speak soon. With that, she was gone, collapsing into the arms of Eloise and bursting into tears. Jack slowly placed the phone down. Goodbye, sweetheart. Thank you for listening to this excerpt from Say Nothing, a compelling thriller currently available on Amazon. Follow the link in the description to order your copy today. Please like and review this podcast and recommend to your friends. Don't forget to tune in again and join us for the next chapter.